mean, those lunches that they cater it's very impressive.
No kidding.
Really, really is.
Yeah, I just got off of a cruise ship last week. My wife and I did the Alaska thing, and you want to talk about an amazing like just orchestration of just all the moving parts. I mean, we were watching them load the ship up beforehand, and just the number of pallets that they were throwing in the side of that ship, and just amazing. Must be amazing how they make all that work.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. You're right.
We have we're getting some folks joining here, I see.
Yeah, we are. Do you mind giving them just a couple more minutes, Nick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Probably good for us.
Oh, there's Ellen. You met Ellen down at the conference.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Ellen.
Morning.
Good to see you again.
Tara with the City of Clearwater. I just wanted to say thank you for taking your time to offer this for us.
Yeah, good morning, Tara. No problem. We're happy to. We love this stuff. So honestly, anytime we get to geek out with anybody else, it's on a excellence journey or any process improvement, we love it. So glad that we get to have this time together today.
And Gordon, I know folks are still trickling in. I did have a question kind of for the group, but as far as I'm not sure what your familiarity is with the Baldrige criteria, Sterling criteria. Like, when if we talk about things like Cat 1, Cat 2, do you guys know what we're talking about? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
We absolutely do. We've been living and breathing this for like 17 years, it seems.
Okay. Cool. All right. Good. Good.
So for a little background, Justice Administrative Commission has gone through the Sterling process in the past, and we have a couple people from there. City of Tallahassee Human Resources, where Ellen is from, are drafting their application for this year's process now. And the City of Clearwater Utilities are going through the Explorer. And they're getting ready to submit their org profile in a few months for an Explorer. So everyone's got some familiarity with the process.
Very good. Thank you.
And I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off. And Nick, Brandon, Brittany, thank you, and take it away.
Let me share my screen here. We haven't delivered this since Sterling Conference, so this is a close group setting that we're not too worried about that. And anything that you guys are thinking throughout this, if there's any questions you want to jot down or us to go into anything more in depth, this is a little bit different and more personal setting than the Sterling Conference. So, and we're on our computers too. So if we need to pull up anything or like demo something, we probably can do that. We're just cognizant about what we share because we're a financial institution, and our risk department, they're on us pretty good as far as what's proprietary and what's not, whatnot. So that being said, we'll kick it off here. So you can see our dates are not today, but this is digitizing the framework is what we call it. And what you'll see throughout this is how we've kind of digitized some processes. And that's one of the new things in the Baldrige Sterling framework of recent years is how are you digitizing? Digitization is that the term, right? In front of your resource books or Baldrige framework book. It's right there front and center. And so we felt it was necessary to share how we do this with the framework. And as you'll go, Brandon did mention this, as we go throughout this, we'll see all different linkages of processes in different categories of the criteria. And so just kind of be mindful as you go through here, kind of thinking about, well, what area of the criteria this might cover. So that being said, we did do a Kahoot during the the session live. I just wanted to keep this in here because through Kahoot or Mentimeter is another one, through virtual meetings and virtual projects and stuff, this is a way that we're able to keep people engaged a little bit more and be more interactive, so we're not just speaking to people. And so Mentimeter or Kahoot is really good tools for us that we use from a digital standpoint. And just some brief introductions. I know we probably get introduced to you a little bit more, but maybe we can have time at the end. But I'm Nick. I'm Director of Organizational Excellence here at USF Federal Credit Union. And I've been here 10 years now, and I've held lots of different roles in the credit union. And when the opportunity came, when we started our journey, I was able to be one of the first ones, hired in a position to where when we started what we call our Pride journey, which you'll see in just a second. Just really this journey of excellence. Love what we get to do, and my one word for Brandon is dynamic. We try to think of one word for each other when you're introducing him. So Brandon's super dynamic, and we love having him. He's really such a valuable asset to our credit union and this journey. And I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And I'm Brandon, of course. Also, I've been at the credit union for about 4 years now. Before the credit union world, I was in the retail world. I used to manage a Staples store for many years. So I was kind of very in that like sales and service sort of mindset, right? And then came over to the credit union and started there as a teller, worked my way into doing loans and things like that for folks. And then when Nick got an opportunity to expand that department, he posted a position for project manager, and I jumped at that, and was lucky enough to get that position. So that's kind of my entrance in there. I was part of our first Sterling site visit. I had myself and Brittany had the honor of driving some of the examiners around. We got to chauffeur them to site back when they had in-person site visits. So it was kind of a great, sort of out of the frying pan into the fire sort of experience with Sterling. And then I've been served as an examiner now for 2 years. So had a lot of fun learning from other organizations and seeing how they can fit with our organization. Brittany up next, we're going to introduce you to her. My word for her is dedicated. Brittany's, you may or may not know if you met her before, she's a mother of 5. She's got 5 adopted children, and we're constantly amazed every day at how she is able to divide her time between being a mom and her regular job and Sterling and everything else that she does. So that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind when I think about Brittany. So I'll pass it over to her.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that word. So my name is Brittany. I am the Performance Excellence Specialist here. I've been with the credit union going on almost 7 years in July. I started out in loan servicing, and then I was promoted to senior. And then again, kind of like Brandon's story, Nick expanded this department and there became a position available, and I applied and I was honored to get and receive the position. I've been a Sterling examiner for 2 years now. I'm also a senior Sterling examiner, so that's been a great journey for me. And I'm going to describe Nick. His word for me is enthusiastic. Nick is always enthusiastic in anything he does. He's got his hands all over our credit union. I mean, he's in everything. And you won't find another person as enthusiastic as him. So I mean, he's just, if there was the term, a picture in the dictionary of for enthusiastic, it'd be Nick's face. So,
Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah, no problem.
We are all Sterling examiners and have been on multiple site visits and things like that. And so, we have that experience in our belt. Brandon was Rookie of the Year this past year, and Brittany got Examiner Excellence Award this year for the Examiner of the Year Award. So really good stuff that we're doing. We try to build that culture here. Just a brief overview. This is a highlight of our journey. This is not everything, but you can see there's a lot. This really just kind of encapsulates all the things that we've kind of put in place, processes that we put in place over the year, and we just felt like it was necessary. It's necessary to kind of give you that backstory a little bit. Our Pride journey is really our continuous journey for excellence, and our Baldrige Sterling journey and everything that we do regarding that, and that's what we name it here. And then, we started with leadership and strategy very early on, and it kept building and building. And so values-based hiring or leading with heart, you can see a couple of these, and then we earned that award in 2020 for Sterling. We did apply for Baldrige the following year. We did receive, we're awarded a site visit. We didn't receive the award. They were all past winners, I believe, but it was really a good experience for us, and we're taking those feedback reports and continuing to work at our journey. And so our outcomes through this presentation with you, one is to focus on strategy and how we kind of looked at strategy to digitize this. We'll kind of touch on our workforce, so that's your category 5 area, and what we've put in place from a digital standpoint there to help drive some of that culture. And then operations, what we do with some of our processes and how we put this into our platform that you'll see. And then we'll kind of go over some of those takeaways. Do we?
Yeah.
I believe Brandon's
Yeah.
can jump in, right?
Yeah. So I'll jump in and take you guys through the kind of the first section of this. So one of the first thing we want to talk about is strategy, right? And you all may feel this, and you can tell me if you don't, but sort of the strategy development part, getting in a room and coming up with ideas, in some ways can kind of be the easy part, right? And then when it comes to actually deploying that strategy, making sure it's aligned and integrated with everything you do, it's really where like the work begins and it gets difficult, right? Sort of like the operationalization of ideas, right? So that's definitely something that we feel at our organization, and what we want to show you is some ways that using low code, no code tools, digitization has helped us kind of make some of these threads to tie some of this stuff together for us.
And keep in mind with what you're seeing and what Brandon just mentioned is the low code, no code is really, it's citizen development. So if you go look up this word citizen development, it's really around, we're able to create this stuff ourselves. We don't have an IT background. We didn't go get a IT degree or anything. These systems are built for people like you and me to digitize our stuff without being IT experts. So just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, very true. So we'll start here. So what you're looking at here is our strategy map for our organization. This was a really big deal for us at the start of our Pride journey. Our CEO really loves this because he's able to fit all of, speak to our strategy and fit it all on one page, right? So this was like a really big deal for us when we first developed this. And this is also similar to many organizations. This is the top of our cascading scorecard system, right? So all department scorecards are tied to these overall measures of success and strategic objectives, all the way up through the individual to department to the overall corporate goals. And this is a great achievement for us. But what we were looking for is something that something a little more interactive, right? Something that we could work with a little more, because this is just a PDF document. So what you're seeing now is a digital version. So we've taken all that strategy map and turned it into a digital piece that allows us to, within a couple of clicks, see some of the linkages to these individual pieces, and we're able to drill down and actually look at what are we doing about these particular things, what are the focus areas, results, who owns these things, stuff like that. And you go to the next slide, Nick. There you go.
Was this it?
So one of the key linkages is okay, here's our strategy, but what are we doing about it? So within a quick click, we can click in here and see all the action plans that are associated with each one of these strategic measures, right? So within 2 clicks, you can go into each one of those individual action plans, aka projects, and see what the recent updates on those projects were. See, gather various information about it. What's the objective of the project? Who's working on it? Are there any opportunities or barriers? Who's on the team? A number of things, right? So this is some of the linkages that we wanted to show you, that some of the ways that we've made that strategy more interactive. And we can also take some of these linkages and put those into some visual data. And Nick, you can go on to the next slide there. So with this data, we're able to create some visual information, right? We're able to create some dashboards. This is an example of some of those dashboards. If you want to click, there's a couple clicks on this slide, Nick. I'll go ahead and click real quick. We'll show you. I'll drill down into some of these. So this is a slide that shows here's all the projects that we're currently working on, and you can get a very quick glimpse at like where are our efforts going. What are we more focused on one focus area than another? Where are we at? And if you click one more time, we're also able to see where have we been in the past. What have we been focusing on? So here's all the completed projects that we've done, right? You want to click again. By that same token, we can drill down even further than that into each individual measure and see, hey, what are we doing? How many projects essentially are going towards each individual strategic measure. And if you want to click again, Nick, same thing as before, we can see the history on that too. So where have our efforts been placed in the past? Some others, go ahead. Some other things that we can look at. Run the business, change the business, right? So we want to have a good mix of, obviously we have a lot of projects that are focused on improving the way we do things now. And we also want to make sure that we're looking to innovate, right? And we're looking to think of ways that we can do our business differently in order to serve our member better. We can also take a look at, okay, what's the balance between our more functional, focused projects and high level, highly involved strategic projects, right? And so that just kind of gives us a really high level view of that data. Go ahead, one more, Nick. Yeah. Okay, so I showed you a little bit of that data, and this is kind of where it starts to get really fun, at least for me, especially as a project manager. I want to take a second here, guys, and you can throw this in the chat. You can call it out however you want, but I want to describe to you how we communicated on projects prior to using this system. And you guys can I'd like to know from you guys what are some of the pitfalls you think that might happen with that. So prior to this, the way that we communicated on projects is your project lead, whoever's leading that project, would periodically communicate to their leader, the project sponsor, what's going on in the project, right? And then the sponsor, generally the senior leader, would get together during certain meetings throughout the month with other senior leaders, and they would all kind of report out to one another and discuss what was going on with the project. That was like the way that we communicated prior, and we had a cadence for it and everything like that. But I'm curious, I mean, what do you guys see some issues with that? Where do you see some issues occurring with that type of communication as described?
Don't leave Brandon hanging now.
You guys ever play that game of telephone when you were in grade school?
Do all the champions communicate to each other accurately what they've been told?
Yeah. Yep. Very good. What else? What other things?
Hey, Brandon, this is Ellen. Unfortunately, I was in a conversation offline for half that question. Can you repeat your question, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the way that we would do project communication prior is the project lead would periodically communicate to the project sponsor, who is generally a senior leader, and then the senior leaders would meet regularly, and they would give updates on what's going on with the various projects that they're sponsoring, and they would talk about them, talk about barriers and stuff like that. So you have a project lead talking to a project sponsor, and the project sponsor sharing with the other sponsors what's going on. So I was curious from you guys if you see any immediate like, sort of red flags with that, like some issues that might develop from that type of communication?
So from my perspective, oftentimes, it's a really good conversation between the project leads and the project managers, but sometimes the communication doesn't filter down to the people sort of boots on the ground that have to actually effectuate the work. That's one of the challenges that we have.
Yeah, so kind of that one-way communication, right? It's kind of only going one direction.
Yes.
Talked about the message might get jumbled along the way too, right?
Yes.
What about the consistency of that messaging? I mean, what do the senior leaders want to know? And are they certain that they're going to get answers to what they want to know each time? You know, sort of that consistency of the communication. So,
Brandon, in
yeah,
the chat, Greg put scheduling issues could arise too.
scheduling issues. Can you expand on that a little bit, Greg?
Gordon, oh, great.
Yeah, so what my thinking was you mentioned that you would schedule a meeting and people would get together and chat. Well, to me, you got to make sure it fits for my schedules. You got to make sure it fits for the. Whereas if you're doing something more in a digital framework, you can get to it when your schedule allows, and it may expedite decisions. It may expedite conversations because those scheduling issues just go away.
Yeah, great point. So I mean, maybe not everybody shows up to that meeting that day, right? And maybe one of those sponsors that might have a stake in that project wasn't there, you know, and they didn't get that communication that day. Yeah, that's a really good point. So yeah, as you can see, we could probably sit here and come up with a couple of more too, but there's some issues with that. So what you guys are seeing now on the screen is what we've developed is on the first of every month, an email goes out automatically to every project leader. Every project that we have, if they're a lead, they get an email. And this email, we're able to kind of customize this to however we want, but it gives them a list of the people who are leading the project and their projects, right? And then on this list is a link to a form that asks them for some specific information. If you want to click that, Nick. So this is what the form looks like. Goes out, the leader is able to add their project, right? They're able to provide a status for that project. They're asked 3 specific questions, right? We want to know what'd you guys do in the last month? What do you plan to do in the next month? And then perhaps most importantly, is there anything getting in your way of achieving the outcomes of this particular project, right? So they're able to type all of that in here. And then when they click submit, that update automatically sends them a summary and then also CCs the project sponsor on that, right? So it's a way for them to communicate with that. And then on top of that, it's stored in in our project portfolio database. So anybody can go in there, and we'll show you a little bit of that in the next couple slides. Anybody can go in there and look at what's been communicated on this project. It's consistent, right? It's regular, goes out every month. We're asking targeted questions, right? And it's very transparent. Anybody can see it. Okay. Nick, I think you can click to the next one. So I covered a couple of those issues that we uncovered, you know, the telephone game, things like that. One thing that was brought up was well, this communication is kind of one direction, right? There's folks that are, you know, not a part of those senior leader meetings that may not be communicated with, right? So this is communication in the other direction. So what you're seeing here is a dashboard that we created again with this system that the senior team uses now during their meetings. And so they're looking at some of our organizational projects here in a stand-up meeting. They're able to click through all the various individual projects that are you know, designated for that meeting, and they're very able to see a bunch of information right up at the top, right? And you can see in the middle there, I think if you click, Nick, it should highlight that. Yeah, there in the middle there, you see that's where the project updates are. And if there are any barriers or risk, it'll pull that out and put it above. So it's right there in front of the senior team, because that's their primary function during these meetings. You know, if the project's on track, everything's good, they're happy, right? But if it's you know, at risk, they want to know what's getting in the way of this project and what can we do to fix it, right? That's their primary function. So if they choose to say they have a question for the project leader, or they want to provide some direction on a particular barrier or obstacle, they can click the feedback form. And it's another form, and I think if you click that, Nick, it'll kind of show that for the senior team to fill out. And once again, when this is clicked, when this is filled out, once it's submitted, an email automatically goes to the project lead, the facilitator, if there is one, and then also the project sponsor, so they have a copy of it, just an update. And that's going to, you know, either provide direction to that leader. They may want to request a report out. They can get that done, or again, they may just have some have a question, right, for them. So what is this? And this is an example of what that email looks like when it goes out. And again, it's all automated when they click submit. So some of the benefits of this, right? So it obviously makes this communication more transparent, right? It standardizes some of the communication that we're looking for. It makes it a little bit easier, right, for folks. So that's it for the project updates, and we can go into a little bit more detail at the end too if we have some questions. But I want to shift gears a little bit and show you. I mentioned a couple of times some of the we call it operational rhythm at our organization, but we mentioned some of those regular monthly meetings that our senior team gets together. And you guys, if you've ever been in a meeting, had to host a meeting, facilitate a meeting, you know that there's a lot that kind of goes into it. There's, you know, you want to maybe collect input. You've got to create an agenda. You've got meeting minutes to take. You've got action items. You know, there's a lot that goes into facilitating a meeting. So we've been able to create a module to help us with that, especially these meetings that occur regularly, right? And we have like 4 or 5 of them that occur twice a month, once every quarter, bi-weekly, things like that. So what you're looking at here, and Nick, you can kind of click through this as I highlight it. Click one time. Here you go. So what you're seeing here is, okay, here's the meeting date and the meeting time and the time that the meeting occurs. And this is really important for the automation, right? Because the automation is going to be sending out requests, you know, based on the time that meeting is gonna happen. The next part there that you're seeing is, so here is the reoccurring agenda. So yes, a lot of these meetings we're doing the same thing, right? Because it's a rhythm. But there's also the proposed topics too. So things that folks want to talk about during those meetings show up here, and they can be accessed and viewed. And then we have our meeting minutes link here. So it's a link to another form that allows folks to fill out minutes, and then those minutes are automatically attached to this meeting. So those previous meetings, as you can see, there's a little link there that you can click on, and it'll show you all of the minutes from past meetings. And then also that you have action items there too. So, and you can keep track of those action items as you go. You go to that next slide, Nick. So I mentioned the automations, right? So 1 to 2 weeks before each meeting, this email goes out to anyone that's participating in that meeting. And it's just letting them know, first of all, it's a reminder the meeting's going to happen. And secondly, there's another link there. And if you want to click, Nick, another link there that takes them to yet another form that allows them to just quickly give a quick title of what do you want to talk about, right? How important is this thing that you want to talk about, right? And then click submit, and it's attached to that meeting, right? What's cool about that is that helps us build out an agenda, and I'm going to show you that here on the next slide. If you want to go to that next slide.
Yeah, I think they get that.
So what you're seeing here is an agenda that's generated through this system, right? There's two pieces, right? It takes any of those topics that were submitted, and it'll automatically prioritize them, high, medium, low, and then put the submitter next to it. So once you get through the main agenda piece, or you get to the part of your meeting where you're going over new business, you can go through these topics one by one and call on folks and have them share. Right, and it kind of ranks that. There's also, if you click one more time, Nick, there's also a link, like as I mentioned, there's a meeting minutes form embedded in the agenda, right? So you can do it from the system, or you can do it right from the agenda. When you click on that link, go ahead and click, Nick. Again, these forms, they're so great, right? You have another form that is just, it's got a rich text box in there that you can just type out, the what's going on in the meeting. It also has an attachment capability. So there's some folks that like to type it up in Word still, so they can do that if they want. They can type it up in Word and then just attach it to this form, submit it, and boom, it's still with that meeting, warehoused with that meeting.
And normally we have somebody designated, usually in a meeting, to take the meeting minutes, whether it's a secretary or a note taker of that, that group. But anybody part of the meeting that is taking notes can copy their notes in, and it will all kind of come into meeting minutes. So I got notes from Ellen, I got notes from Karen, I got notes from Brittany, and it all will attach to that meeting essentially.
Exactly. So before we move on, Nick's going to take over next, but I wanted to mention kind of what you guys are seeing. By the way, we talked a little bit about citizen development. All of this stuff has been iterative, right? Like it started with like just a basic little functional thing, and because it's kind of like almost like digital Legos, right? You're just taking pieces and building and putting it together. When you think of something, you can do it, so it's kind of like you start the agenda piece and be like, oh man, it'd be nice if folks could submit topics. Okay, let's go build a form for that and build an agenda for that. And the same goes for the strategy piece. It's like, oh, it'd be really great to know, see project barriers come to the forefront, or it'd be great to have a dashboard built out. It started kind of with a kernel, and it just builds out and builds out and builds out and builds out with more ideas, and it continues to build out. We continue to have new ideas that kind of go along with this stuff. So
yeah, good. I'm sure some of you guys have some questions. We can dive into more. I'm going to keep flowing here for us. This is just a group picture of our credit union. It's one of we do an all-star day every other year where we get everybody in person, and we have a training day, and this time was more of a celebration day of all the hard work we've done over the last couple of years that we weren't able to get together and celebrate. So but this is why we do what we do. It's our people and our members. I mean, it's our greatest asset, and so we wanted to show you how we kind of try to ignite some of that culture through automation and through some of this digitization. And so, let's go back here real quick. We just put a lot of effort in to building and creating this culture that we have now. And so these digital solutions have not only helped us or allowed us to automate and streamline some of these processes that we're going to talk about, but also to drive the engagement of our employees and improve the flow of communication. And then also it's made it easier for all stakeholders and process owners to provide results that maybe we hadn't measured before. And so you'll see some of this. So first is our reward and recognition system. And so typically I do this with you. Can you guys tell me the answer to this first question? What percentage of employees are more likely to give peer-to-peer recognition when they have an easy-to-use tool?
Feel free to drop it in the chat as well.
Yeah, just throw it in the chat. That's fine. %. It's pretty good. It's a little high, but 44% more likely. So even ones that are likely to do it, they're even more likely when they have an easy to use tool. Here's another one for you. Employee is what % more likely to repeat the same behavior or action if they've been recognized for it. This is a big one. 80%, Ellen. 90, Denise, you're close. 92%. And then what percent of leaders report positive business results when they practice a culture of recognition? I saw somebody say 85, 95, Karen, 85. 73% leaders report positive business results when they practice a culture of recognition. And these come from Gallup and a few other sources here. So there is some research on this. So part of our reward and recognition system, first we want to give opportunities, we want to give you the history and a little bit here, and then our development, how we develop this. So first of all, our opportunities, our history, our recognition program really wasn't robust. And as we've kind of built it, we have had different systems. We went from a Paylocity system with impressions is what we moved into. And then we needed to integrate our HRS system, which moved away from Paylocity. And so we didn't have that impressions anymore. And then we went over to Yammer. If you guys are familiar with Yammer, it's a way that, through a Microsoft basically integration that we can do this, but there wasn't a lot of reporting on this, not a lot of interactivity. In our program, you can earn points for being recognized as well, and those points accumulate, and you'll see some of that in a second. But it is all based on a point system that they can get gift cards from, or use them for gift cards, or even a day off when they accumulate enough. But for tracking was, there's very little reporting. We didn't have a lot here. And then engagement stats for you, 5 to 10 employees maybe per month were using our Yammer system or our other system. And it was okay. But yeah, it was not a traction there. And then communication leaders and other folks were being recognized often, but didn't even know it. So sometimes you may have been recognized, but unless you went out to the system, you weren't being alerted for that. Your leader wasn't alerted for that. And so unless you are actually going out to this other system, a lot of times your peers and others weren't even knowing who was being recognized and for what. And then development came. So that was kind of the backstory. So that was the problem we faced. And then in developing this, we got together when we did a consultation with our HR. We sat down with them for an hour and said, what is it that we need out of this system, and what does these past systems provide that we need to carry on, and so on. And then we started with a submission form. So much like you saw the forms before, there's a submission form. We sync our employee directory with this, so they can just select anybody within our employee directory. And then we automated it, and we tested it out, and then we deployed it, and that was in August of last year, actually. And then it's been in a constant state of evolution. So we've embedded new views. You're going to see some of this. We've integrated it into leader standard work. We integrated it into team meetings. We do a wellness check. You'll see that's integrated to that through this digitization. We've also integrated it with our voice box. So if you have any suggestions or use our voice box system, which you'll hear a little bit from Brittany, if you use that, that's also integrated here as far as you being recognized for your innovation. And then, there's point redemption. We'll go over the impact in a minute, but here's our form. This is basically my challenge for you would be, think about the last person you recognized. As you were looking through this, and how hard was it or how difficult was it for you? So this is a quick walkthrough. So Brandon, he's praising me in your what you're seeing here, and our core values are integrated here, so it's all aligned with who we are and our competencies and stuff, and then a little recognition that gets submitted. I believe. Show you. That looks like. So that recognition comes into a dashboard right here. And this shows you who's been recognized. We can embed this view elsewhere. We can share this view with anybody, even if you don't have access or an administrator to our system. as an editor or creator, we can share views and we can embed views on our intranet and on all sorts of stuff. So people can kind of scroll through and see everybody who has been recognized. So we have submission dates, employee names, the core value that it was tied to, their why, and then who submitted that. And then these forms, like I said, you can share this. So we can share this view. We can share this form with anybody. So in deploying our recognition, we put a recognition easily on our master teams page for our whole staff. It's really a little tab on the top of Teams within that group that they can go to, and it's embedded right there. They don't have to go out to another system. But we've put this link everywhere. We've shared it everywhere. We've embedded it places. So it's really easy, and it really becomes much more top of mind for folks because really they're seeing it all the time. Again, like I said, you can embed this form, which we have. And then right here, you can see how we've embedded it. So with our intranet page, you can go straight to one of our pages here, and you can scroll through, you can filter, you can search for specific names and pull up the recognition that you see from folks. So it's visible to everybody, which we really enjoy. And I think people do like the fact that that it's embedded now, and we weren't able to see this stuff before. You were, but you had to go through a different system to do it. And then leader standard work. So this was a big project for us that we went through. And so we aligned all our leader standard work with our strategic focus areas, and by weekly, monthly, and quarterly and annually that you have to perform. I don't know why it's going to the next slide. And so we listed this out, and an expectation is monthly that you plan and recognize. And so thinking throughout your month, most of us do this weekly. We have a block of time on a weekly basis where as leaders, we go in and think about our week and who can we recognize. But right within our leader standard works chart, that's what you see is their link that takes you right over to our form. And so we've embedded there. Now, this is not the only part of our recognition program. This is one tool that you have to recognize that makes it easy for you. But we do all sorts of stuff to recognize, from on-the-spot recognitions. We give monetary awards. There's all-star awards every year that we do, and so on. So we just make it quick and easy for you to recognize, because a simple thank you does go much further than you think. We've automated this, so as far as when somebody is recognized, so when the record hits, that's the trigger. When a record hits this platform the form has been submitted, the email does get sent out. I think that we pull it up here. The email does get sent out and says, hey, you have been noticed by this person on this core value, what they had to say about you. And here's a small token of appreciation. So when you accumulate these points, here's our breakdown for you. And then on behalf of the senior team, we thank you. And then they can go click on the recognition dashboard link here to kind of see where they stand and see their points, and to see a more in-depth look at that recognition. This creates dashboards for us. So Brandon showed this a little bit to you from our other base that we have, but in this base, we are able to do the same thing with these apps that are included. And so by the information that's put into the system, it can actually splice and dice stuff for you. So we love this stuff. Obviously, we can see how our core values break down for our recognitions. The cool thing here is we can see by month. So we kicked this off in August 2021, and you can see by month here our results. And remember, I told you 2 to 10 people per month in our recognition system before we went over to this side, and we started off immediately with 50. We had some advertising, we were kind of promoting it, but it climbed to 100. We haven't had to promote this a whole lot. It's just the traction is taken off. And now we're averaging over 130 recognitions per month is kind of where we stand. And it's incredible. It really does drive and build our culture. A cool thing too, we don't necessarily need to see this, but if we want to go look and pull, yeah.
Nick, real quick, just for reference on that number too, we're at 185 employees, right?
Yeah, we were at 170, 175, and now we're at about 185 now, yeah.
the 185 employees in our organization, just as a reference for some of these numbers too.
Yeah. And then the frequency by day, I think that's kind of cool. You can see as the week goes on, more important people are recognized for their work. And a lot of times, a lot of leaders on Friday are doing leader standard work, or we have our weekly journal entry that gets sent out. You'll see that actually has a link and asks you, hey, did you recognize anybody this week? And so just a lot of triggers here for people to actually think of and recognize people. But the information provided us from the system is really, really awesome. So I said the voice box, you'll see a little bit more of this, but we have a voice box form also here, that this is kind of our suggestion platform. We have a committee that meets on these ideas and distributes these ideas based on where they need to go and priorities and stuff like that. And some of them land in the project world as far as projects we take on based on your idea. But when you submit this idea, it automatically goes into the employee recognition, and we recognize you for in the innovation category of our core values. And so we try to align and integrate all this stuff as well. And then when you submit this voice box, you get an automated message as well that says, thank you for your suggestion, we appreciate you. And then they also get status updates. But Brittany, are you going to this?
Yeah, so I can kind of take this over here. So our voice box, we've been through many systems with this, and we landed on digitizing this process through the system, the low-no code. And one of our things that we took back is we weren't very transparent when suggestions were getting submitted. So we've actually been able to automate this to every time that status changes on an employee suggestion, they get an email. And what that email will tell them is, hey, your status, it's been reviewed. This is what we're doing with it. If you have any questions, please contact us. We're also very hands-on with our employees who submit suggestions. And through VoiceBox, we are able to actually have a form, a survey attached to our automation emails that lets us know how we're doing as well for a committee base. And it just really keeps that flow of communication open. With our VoiceBox, you'll see here that we use what we call apps. And then this bar graph over here, or I'm sorry, this pie graph over here shows you what we're doing in each section. So ideas submitted to the department, you can click on that and it pulls up all of the ideas that were submitted. You can click on new submissions and it'll pull up all of the new submission ideas, anything that we've parking lotted. And it really shows a good image or good visual to our senior leaders to show them what we're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. So I segued in from our recognition and how that ties in, even links in with our voice box and suggestions. And then next is our wellness journal. This is another base that we have. We check in on the, we check in for performance evaluations with our team. We do engagement surveys throughout our pulse survey is actually going on right now. And then we have an engagement survey at the end of the year. So we do that twice a year, but this is an ongoing way to kind of get a pulse check on our team and really connect competencies and values, reminders to recognize and reward and just overall wellness of our team. So the form, I thought it played, sorry. The form goes through and asks these questions. So we develop these cadences throughout our operational rhythm and our teams. We have Monday huddles, like on our team, for instance, right? We have Monday huddles, we have monthly one-on-ones, we have quarterly business reviews as a department, and then we have a wellness check here as well. And so each week they reflect on their week, what they've accomplished, have they part of the leader standard work, because I check in with my team each week. So there's a question right there that says, did your leader check in with you? And then what value did you demonstrate this week? Or and we've listed out core competencies for leaders and workforce, as well as our core values. And so you can show what you've demonstrated this week. And then you can, right there, did you recognize anybody this week? Right there, it has a link to that form. And so if you answer no, it's no big deal. It's just kind of making you think about who impacted you this week. And then you put your leader there, and it's all automated. So that gets sent here, and it says, you know, Brandon's completed that weekly journal this week, and you know, overall wellness is great. He has a great feeling about his job. Here's a core value that he demonstrated this week. Here's a workforce competency that he demonstrated this week. He did connect with his leader. He took a moment to recognize somebody, and then he's got some accomplishments and what he's grateful for there. And then at the end of that, you did see it. Sorry, it jumped on. At the end of it, you see that leader feedback form. There's a link there, and I can give immediate feedback onto that that entry. So we don't have to have another meeting. This is all digital, and so I give feedback, and that goes directly to them. And great accomplishment this week. Have a great weekend. I mean, it could be really anything. Really appreciate your collaboration on this with me this week or whatnot. And it really is just a two-way communication that develops a strong team. And then we can kind of break that down, so we can see almost a pulse check to our engagement surveys. So if engagement surveys come out and we're scoring low in certain areas, but this, you know, this is we would say in our Baldrige world and process world, this is our in-process measure to know that we'll have good engagement scores with our team and our team's doing well. But as a leader, you know, we're all about our people. We need to care for our people, and this is one way that we are able to do that and address anything that it may be not right. And so overall wellness, you can see that most people strongly agree. And then satisfaction, same thing. Job satisfaction is a 4 or 5 on that 1 to 5 scale. And so, you know, we're pretty happy with that. But we can have these results, and those results, we have a rolling 30 days. And so as we have different results overall and rolling, and at every 30 days, you can kind of see these things shift. And if so, we can have these conversations with our employees and helping them out. Sometimes they could be going on something personally, then they need some flexibility for. So that was kind of, that rounds us up for my section. I'm gonna pass it over to Brittany. These are some of our bases that I showed you that help ignite our culture and really drive home our leading with heart as our core competency.
But before you take it over, Britt, I just wanted to make a comment on the weekly wellness check-in. You know, it was kind of, when we first rolled it out, you know, it was kind of a little like weird, you know, for some of us. But I know for myself, I've really started to like enjoy doing it and found some real value in it, because as you saw, not only does it like kind of have me take a minute to reflect on my week and maybe think about somebody that stood out to me and then send a recognition. So I started recognizing people more, but also, you know, I don't know how you guys do your like reviews, if you guys have to do self reviews, you know, but annually we have to do a self assessment, right? And we do them based on our values. They're all integrated. And we got to talk about how we exhibited these values throughout the year and how we exhibited competencies throughout the year. And if you're like me, that's pretty tough to think about in December, what you were doing in January and February and March, right? And so this journal, I have all these in my email. I mean, when it comes to, this is the first year we've done it, but when it comes time for me to do my review, I expect it to be a lot easier. Maybe not so easy on Nick because he's going to have more to read. But I'll have a lot of examples of how I've exhibited competencies and core values throughout the year, you know, for my performance review, which is really cool.
It's really good. And that was kind of the intent when we were planning all of this, is that it does integrate right into our performance reviews. And so at the end of the year, you can export this into a CVS file. I've also created different views for each one of my employees, and so that report to me, and I can share that view with them, and they can go through and see all their journal entries throughout the year and go back and reflect when it comes time for their annual review. And so it really makes it easy for us, so we're not you know, taking too much time on that, trying to reflect and whatnot. And then, you know, as we've kind of deployed this out, you know, one of the departments, they didn't want weekly, they rather had monthly, because normally it should take you 5 to 10 minutes, and they wanted to spend some more time reflecting on their month. And so we just set the automations in the form to go monthly to that department instead of weekly. And so you know, you can be flexible with this as well. Brittany.
Thank you. All right, so this is how we digitize our process. What you're looking at now is our enterprise process map, or EPM for short, because we love our acronyms here. If you don't know what an enterprise process map is, though, this is essentially a very high level view of what we do here at the credit union, and it's broken down into 3 categories. The top is our leadership processes. These are the strategy and guidance that we receive. The middle is a value stream, which is how we deliver our products and services to members. And the bottom is our support services. And this is all the work that kind of gets done behind the scenes to allow us to serve our members. A little bit of history on this. We actually adopted this when we went to a sharing day, and we got this idea from Elevation's credit union, who was a former Baldrige recipient, and then we later adopted it in December of 2017 and fit it towards our credit union. One thing you can say about this is it's visually appealing. It's very easy to read. We did this so that it stood out to our employees, but it's good. But as a Sterling Award winner, we want to do great things, right? And one of those key pieces we're missing is that interactive experience with it. So if you go to the next slide. So we were actually able to digitize this within our systems and create this process, this EPM base. You can still see here, everything's listed, all of our very high level shows us what we do at the credit union. It still shows, you know, what category it fits into. However, what's really cool about this is if you click into one of these, yes, thank you. Sorry, I forgot there were automations on that. But if you click into this, it goes in deeper. It'll go into all of our high level key processes. It'll show you who owns the process. And then if you click again, it's on to 4.1, it's off to the right-hand side. You see that image. It brings up all of those sub-processes associated with our key processes. And this is really cool because, again, it shows you who the process owner is. It shows you who the facilitators were on this process. If you click again into it, you'll see that there's a process team that's associated with it. It'll, oh, nope, keep going back. Sorry. Yep,
okay.
nope, go. Yep, thanks. Can you go back to the?
Going back, yeah. Sorry, it's
Okay,
a little.
no, that's okay. So it'll dive deeper. It'll show you everything that's going on with that process. You can attach standard operating procedures, and that'll pull up as well. So it makes everything very easy at a click of a button, and it really gives that interactive experience with our employees. But how do we track this, right? So how do we track what's getting done with our processes? We use our business process management tracker. This was a very old way that we did it. It was a little bit of a convoluted process. It was on an Excel sheet. It was stored in one file. So that means you had to be on our VPN, you had to be on a computer to fill this out. It was manual, so there was no automation. Human error happens, and sometimes we forget to fill things out. To search for a process, you had to go through all of these different tabs to find one process. It just wasn't working out for us. So through digitization, we were able to do this, which is basically make it a lot easier for our employees to use and to find processes. We automated the form to where it'll go out to our facilitators once a week, and it allows them to update the process and tell us where they're at, what they're doing. Are there any issues going on with that process? What stage of our process that they're in? And what that does is it'll send an email out to me if it's not on track. It allows me to go and meet with the process team so we can get it back on track. You'll see the video. You can also click on established metrics, and it'll pull up, all the processes that are currently in that established metric phase. And then you can click into that to see any updates. So it makes it really easy to use and very quick to find the process you're looking for, rather than searching through multiple tabs. And
so like Brittany said, even on, you saw in the video, but we can demo this too, but when you click on the app, you can actually click on that section of the pie, and it'll pull up all the ones that are reporting to that, or their status is equal to that, I guess, right? And so if you want to really figure out which processes, in this case, we're managing risk or monitoring risk, like, hey, we're almost in the red here, you can pull that up just like you saw here, where you actually click on that extra section of the pie, and it'll pull up those processes that are triggering that, what's at risk. So call that out.
And then again, we took human error out, right? So we have these really cool forms that we can do through our bases. This is our process entry form. So if you have a department that says, hey, we really need to get a process on the books for this, what do? They go in and they fill out this form. It's located on Insight. It's located on Pride page. It's very deployed out to the credit union, but they'll go in and they'll fill this out. And then what we do is we send one of our SOAR champions out to meet with the process owner to kick off this process. If you want to go to the next slide. This is our time to update form. And this is what was previously mentioned with our BPM tracker. This is automated to send out to our facilitators. This goes out weekly to make sure that we're getting all of the updates that we can, because our process teams are usually held weekly. And then that'll dive right into that pie chart that you saw and the status updates. Keep going. And this is our employee parking lot, which we are super proud of. This goes on this link. We put a link to the form on every standard operating procedure that we have. This allows our employees, those ones that are in the weeds every day doing this process, to make suggestions on how to optimize these processes. And it's great because it creates such engagement around our process teams. So when we come back in a year, 6 months to relook at the process that we designed or we documented, we're able to pull this parking lot feature and look at suggestions our employees have made and get them in on teams. So it does, like I said, it fosters a culture of engagement around our process teams.
It integrates right into our, you said, this optimized phase. So, the process has been deployed, it's out there, we're measuring it, we're determining performance, and we come back for those review periods. And we don't just review a process and say, yeah, we still do it. We evaluate it based on the performance that's happening, and then we want to improve it. And when we go to look at improving that process during that time, we look at that parking lot of what people have said basically, what are pain points in this process that we need to look at. And so it is really beneficial.
So now that I've kind of showed you how we've used digitization to log, track, and collect suggestions, I can show you how we actually use this to help us in our everyday processes. And what you're looking at right now is our partner and vendor management base. We have about 85 vendors we use to have business relationships with. And then every year we have to go through a cycle of reaching out to them, collecting documents, having them sign a new form. And it was just a really tedious process because it was manual. We have one dealer rep here that handles our 85 vendors. And he had to be at a desk every day to be able to reach out to these dealers, because all of our forms lived within our files. It wasn't very agile. Now that he moved to this system, we are able to operate this with one person. He can use it on his tablet, his smartphone. He can quickly send forms to dealers if needed. And what's great about this too is they've actually automated this to where if a dealer comes up to time where it's like, ding, 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 it's been a year, we need a new form, it will automatically send that form out to that dealer that we have here, and then for them to send it back. So with 85, you'd usually have 2 to 3 people handling this. We only have about 1 person handling just the system. So it just goes to show how easy it is to use.
So it eliminated a need for essentially an employee there. We were able to not have to hire somebody, and he can do this himself. Did you freeze up, Brittany?
About this too. I heard you freeze up. I'm sorry. Is it me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, wonderful. So what's really cool about this too is that visual appeal. We can see where our vendors are, are they performing well? Are they underperforming? And that usually triggers a response for our leaders to go and say, if they're underperforming, what's happening? What do we need to do? What do we need to look at? As far as our Intelli score, that's our risk score, how high level risk they bring to the organization. We're able to do that as well here.
Right. I think we're getting into just the takeaways here, and I think Brandon, you can jump right in. You're on mute.
Man, now I owe somebody $1, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, before I jump in there too, I was talking a little bit in the chat with Ellen. She had some questions around our weekly wellness journal, kind of who that goes to, and then she had a great question. What percentage of employee participation do you get? Do you mandate or encourage? Is employee feedback of this process positive? And I'll give you kind of my answer, and Nick, you can kind of jump in too. So we don't have a lot of data outside of our department with this because we've piloted it here. We are kind of working at developing sort of like a department management toolbox that includes some of the elements you saw from our meeting management and then some of this weekly wellness stuff as well, to deploy it out to other departments. But for our department, the participation is very good, and it seems to be very consistent too. And Nick, you can verify that with me because I know you see more of the team than I do. At first, it was a little awkward and there was a little bit of kind of hesitance from some folks, but for the most part, especially in our department, we're pretty early adopters of change. You know, we're kind of used to that, so we kind of jumped on it pretty quickly. And what I would say is, I mentioned earlier some of the things that I realized when I started using it is based on that feedback, you know, tweaking that to make it, to add more value to the person who's filling it out, such as giving you that valuable information to help you when you're doing performance reviews and kind of think through, you know, who impacted you throughout the week and who you want to recognize, sort of solidified the tool in my mind. Like I get that email on Friday and it's not something that I got to fill out. It's oh, cool. It's time to, you know, to reflect and make sure that I document some of the stuff I did this week. Cause I will definitely forget it, you know, as it comes along. So far very positive, I would say. And I don't know if Nick, you have any.
Yeah, and every time
contradiction.
every time we go to show the best practice and share it with other leaders and get their department involved, even though we're continuing to work on, like what he said, like a department toolkit where they have that plus a bunch of other stuff we've created at their fingertips. There has been some hesitation for some, and then when they go in and do it, they understand the value very quickly. And like we have one employee that wasn't real adamant about it at first, and now, I mean, she's all gung ho about it, and she's filling out every question, and you don't have to, you know, it says what you're grateful for. Not all those questions are required, and so sometimes you get a journal entry where I think a week ago Brittany was out most of the week, so she didn't have a whole lot to fill out, and it was pretty simple. So it really is. We tell them it really is for their benefit first, and then yeah, obviously it does help us, and so as leaders.
I can give another example too, how that helps me real quick. I'm very much like a task-oriented person, so I have lists all over the place. And if I cross things off my list, I feel accomplished. So when I went from loan servicing into this position, I was really struggling because, as you know, processes, they could take 2 to 3 months to be completed. So I was struggling with, man, I'm not really feeling accomplished. Like I don't have day-to-day like activities. So this wellness journal really helped me because I was able to go back and really look at my week and say, oh, I did accomplish it. It might have just not been on that task that like is forefront, but it helps me understand my position and what I'm accomplishing, even if it's the little wins. So I really think that this is important too. If you especially have those task-driven employees that need to see that, I mean, this tool really works.
Yeah, I will say it is a really good input to one-on-ones. I have one-on-ones monthly, and I look at all their journal entries before that one-on-one. I'm looking at their barriers they put in there. I put if there's that they any time that they added support needed, whether it's professional or personal, they're adding those things in the journal, and so I'll bring those things into my one-on-one meeting as well. So, you know, and then it does go right back to feedback. So it is a two-way street. It really is a good feedback loop that it provides. So good questions.
Yeah, I think it feeds really well into what we're talking about too. You know, one of the major benefits, as we mentioned, of this, the low code, no code stuff, of us being able to make these adjustments. You know, when we first rolled that out, it didn't have as much value as it does now, but we've been able to just go in and say, collect that feedback from folks who I think it was maybe me, Nick, who said it would be great if we maybe, had it go along with our values or competencies so that we could do, I was immediately, my mind went to, this is a great way for me to document what I'm doing throughout the year and blah, blah, blah. But we collected feedback, in real time, and then we can go make these changes in a matter of minutes, and tweak these things. And it just constantly, we're able to sort of continuously improve this stuff and make it add more and more value to more and more people, and so that's one of the major benefits of using tools like this that we've found. Some other benefits as we went through, we talked about this communication piece, what some of our struggles were prior to automating and, sort of making this systematic, this project communication, it's siloed communication, inconsistent, low quality, stuff like that. And now we're able to focus, it's reliable, it's a single source of truth type of thing. Anybody can go there to see what's going on. Same thing with the meeting management stuff. These tools work great for like repetitive, low effort tasks, things that like creating agendas, sending out regular emails, stuff like that. It really does save you a lot of time when you build these things, and it just makes that communication more reliable, more dependable. So that's some of the takeaways for you guys.
We have other stuff out here that we've created from, we could tell you like our knowledge base assets, all our procedures and stuff have now fully been migrated from Excel over to this platform now. And so our knowledge base architect is what we call him, our technical writer. He's saving so much time every month now. And then automating those dates on when things need to be updated and sent out to the proper process owners to update their, to review their procedures and whatnot. And so, and then reporting every month. So he's really satisfied as well. But there's so many use cases that we're continuing to develop. And I know I said this earlier, but leader standard work is one of those things that's kind of an Excel document for us. And it's broken down by weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual activities that each leader is expected to perform. And we're in the process of kind of migrating that over and building that in bases, but also through integration and alignment, like the wellness journal addresses some of those leader standard works that leaders should be doing. And so I just have to kind of go to those results and know that you, as a leader, that you've been doing, if you reported to me that you've been doing these things. So I'm going to open it up for questions. I'll leave this up on the screen, still accessible. We haven't taken any of this down. It's pretty much anything that we've shared during that Sterling conference, from values-based hiring. We have citizen development, little one-pagers and things like that out there. So feel free. We hadn't done anything with this, but questions, anything else in our time here that maybe you want to show you or that you've kind of piqued your interest, we're more than happy to share.
Real quick, before we jump into the question, I'd be really remiss if I didn't mention a couple more benefits of the digitization that we've seen. We mentioned that we're 185 employees, but we're a small credit union essentially, but we like to pretend that we're not, we're $1 billion credit union. These tools, in addition to saving you time, have enabled us to do more with less. Brittany showed you the dealer module that allows one employee to manage, I think 90 dealers, was it 90, 80 dealers, something like that. And then also, that's a good example too. And then also the one Nick mentioned with our knowledge base architect and the tool he created is the learning curve is there to learning these no-code, low-code tools. But once you learn them, it's very easy and quick to create these things, and it spreads like wildfire throughout the organization too. So you're able to, or at least we've seen that. It takes a certain individual, I think, that wants to learn this stuff, and somebody who really gets excited about solving problems. But when you identify those individuals and you teach them and you get them over that curve, it's, the iterative nature of iterative nature of it really kind of blows up throughout the organization. It spreads really quickly. So those are two real big benefits that I wanted to make sure we highlighted because that we have found along the way.
Now, there was a question in the chat that I kind of answered in there, but I wanted to say it out loud. So Ellen had put, what is the percent of employee participation do you get? And is it a mandate or encourage your employee feedback for the process?
We got that one, Britt.
Oh,
We
did you?
answered that. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that just, I think that was regarding maybe wellness, the wellness journal, but in general, it's we kind of answered some of that too, just with some of these other bases. And once we show somebody like the dealer partner base that we have for management.
I think it had to do with the parking lot that we had. Is that right, Ellen? The parking lot for the employee suggestion processes?
No, this one was on the wellness journal and you guys
Okay.
answered my questions. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
Other questions? Got a few minutes here. Is there anything that you guys wanted to see in more detail?
Now, this has been really, really helpful and it's exciting to get started, I guess, with some of these ideas. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I will say that one of the handouts out there does show, I believe, through this QR code, we listed out, there's like 10 or so no code, low code systems besides the one we use, which is Airtable. I think Brittany put that in the system. It's been really good. Honestly, like Excel on steroids, right? It's you really can take pretty much anything that you do in Excel, you can pull it over to the system. We create automations and stuff. And there are kind of stages to, your licensing, I guess, through the system. So our consultants have an enterprise version that we then piggyback off of them to be able to use that. But I believe that Airtable, they don't show that price there for you. You have to go and have a consultation with them to to see what kind of price you can get for the platform. But I will tell you, it's night and day. I mean, we started project management stuff within the no-code platform in Airtable before we got the enterprise version. And enterprise version allows you to set up all the automations and all the visual data and all the graphs and stuff like that. And so it is very helpful, and it is, I would say, huge benefit, the automation piece.
Yeah, Nick, to your point about the others that are out there, some of the big players in the game are in it. Google has one, Amazon has one, Microsoft has, if you guys have the Office 365 suite, there's some like Power Automate, for example, I believe is part of most of those licenses. And there's some great abilities to automate some features using that. And then also a great resource for learning about citizen development in general is the Project Management Institute. If you guys are familiar with PMI.org, you can actually get certified as a citizen developer. But they have a lot of great information around some structure around how to do this, because one of the things that we didn't really touch on, but as you start to get into this, you learn very quickly is that it's very easy to create some of these things, but they do require some care and maintenance. And sometimes when you build out these complicated automations, there's a lot of moving parts that can break, so there are I say there is a learning curve. There's a learning curve to using the system to be able to build, and also a bit of a learning curve to get some IT development practices in place. So if you do decide to go down this road, partnering with folks in IT that are familiar with like development, agile tools, things like that is a really good idea. It's a good suggestion to kind of help think through some of this stuff as you're creating things, because
What you're seeing here on your screen is just another one we created around strategic planning, where it's really around, this is our Baldrige Sterling base essentially, where we can put all our answers to all our to each of the criteria questions. We come back and we do the same thing with our feedback reports, and we chunk them down into, you know, OFIs and strengths and stuff. And then we can, you know, you can see results. So you can see by our OFIs how many we've had, and you can click on these and see, and you can dive in deeper, and we can go into the governance inside, you know, we can actually see what the comment was and the so what statement and whatnot. And then we score these, and we score them so that we have a good report out. As far we have a good OFI report, maybe good. We're doing the strength report too, but it'll tell you, it'll weight the scores based on every feedback that we've gotten from the feedback report. It'll weight them and prioritize what we should be working on first. And so that's another way that we've utilized this system. And then that goes right into our strategic planning it's actually happening right now. They're going through a lot of that strategic planning work, and Brandon this year got to be invited. So he's pulling all this stuff in for them as an input to their strategic planning. So. Good stuff. Good thumbs up. Sorry, I can't see all your faces. I know we're not on camera, but.
Well, Nick, Brittany, Brandon, I really do have to thank you for taking your time to talk to this small group of people. You know, I saw your session at the conference. I really, really enjoyed it, which is kind of why I roped you guys in. For those of you that didn't realize it, it was their executive leader that did the keynote at the opening session of Sterling. So some of this might be a little familiar. The link, the QR code that Brandon put out, has a link to a number of documents, including what they did for speed learning, including some documents related to keynote speakers. If you were at the conference and you thought that was really valuable, grab that. I haven't heard any questions, and I'm kind of curious, from the Justice Administrative Commission, Greg, if you're still there, or from Clearwater Utilities. And I know Tara wouldn't leave us. So you guys have any questions for this group while we got them?
No, this is Greg from JAC. I just want to thank you for the presentation. Really, really informative. As a matter of fact, Rip our executive director had given me a call during the presentation. So I had one ear plug in and one ear to the phone.
You know how that is.
But I did mention to him, he was aware of the presentation today, and I did mention to him how valuable it was. So I suspect there's going to be some follow-up conversations between me and Rip. Really interested in the no-code, low-code kind of tools and how those can be applied. We're right in the middle of our strategic planning efforts right now. So the strategic planning piece of it and the Sterling piece of it are really something that we're interested in. So thank you so much for the information.
Yeah.
And for the city of Tallahassee people, in case you didn't catch it, Nintex Forms, which is a tool you're currently using, is a no-code, low-code solution. And Tableau, which the city is licensed for, has some built-in workflows. So let me ask you, Brandon, I'm going to ask you particularly, do you think that the low-code, no-code is a good balance between having a boots-on-the-ground worker and full-time IT support? Do you think how do you think it fits into that structure?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent supplement to that. I mentioned that PMI has some structure on this. One of the really useful tools that they have is like an assessment tool to take a look at, okay, what's the problem you're trying to solve and what's the best route to go down to try and solve that problem. So if you have something that needs to be integrated into systems, like a CRM or something like that, maybe it's got some really high risk data involved. It's really best left to a full-time IT developer to work stuff like that. For some of the low risk, repetitive tools, that some of the things that we've showed you today, it's such a valuable tool because we all know, I'm sure you all have bottlenecks in your IT department. You know, it's difficult for an organization to go out and just spend all kinds of money on IT developers, you know. So it's very, very useful for these things. And then the really great part of it, other than that too, is you're putting the development in the hands of the person who's closest to that process too. So, you know, if you're most familiar with what you're doing, you can kind of create the thing you need to help you do what you're trying to do, you know, and continue to sort of add things to it. And without that bottleneck, you're able to take that feedback and update very quickly. So I think it's an excellent supplement for sure, but it definitely doesn't replace the need for, you know, for full IT, for sure.
So Nick, for you've demonstrated a number of tools, and it strikes me that this might help manage people working from home, which is a new world. What do you think?
I mean, this is, I think, probably what sparks a lot of the ideas within our building of some of these is like, you know, we're remote now. I mean, we went from maybe 20% of people that were able to be work remote to 75% of our staff that is remote fully now. And I mean, yeah, we don't get together for projects anymore in a room, in a conference room, and really, you know, we call it our war room with sticky notes all over the board and stuff like that, right? And so we've just been down this path over the last few years, this digitization path, and it's not just Airtable, but it's things like Miro. If you guys heard of Miro board, it used to be called real-time boards, and then they changed the name. But Miro is a good whiteboard sharing system out there that you can get and collaborate with each other, and everybody has their hands in it. If you haven't heard of that, it's a really good system. But all of this helps managing remotely. I share with you even our Kahoot Mentimeter to create more engagement during presentations and sessions and things like that, learnings. We've been doing a ton there. So yes, it does help manage more. That's where the wellness journal came in, you know, because we don't just have these passing conversations in the office anymore. And I can't just come outside my office and say, hey, Brandon, hey, Brittany, you know, how's it going? Or, hey, come into my office real quick while you have a second in between, you know, what you're doing. We don't have that anymore. So this was a way for me to check in. I don't know everything that you're doing as a leader. I don't know all the details. And so I need to be able to be in the know, but necessarily have my hands in it. And it's a great way for that to happen too. So yeah, I mean, hands down, has helped us in this remote environment.
Excellent. Well, guys, I know we've taken a lot of your time today and you're cutting into your work hours, but I'm going to ask, your lunch hour, I'm going to ask everyone to unmute briefly and take your hands and put them together rapidly like this.
We can do this electronically too, Gordon.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
I've got a lot to learn.
The applause. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. This was really, really great. Thank you.
Yeah, and as you guys are on this journey, Gordon and everybody else, I mean, we've been through some learning curves here that, you know, we'd love to help prevent others from having to deal with some pain points if we can. And so, you know, we're here to help however you guys need.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Al.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Gordon.
everybody.
Thanks, team.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Guys, I really appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Al. Enjoy your day.
Yeah.
Thanks to you all too.
I will also do a follow-up email with your contact info, Nick.